It became something else when I started working with some young women that were brilliant and that were the kind of young women that, because they were as brilliant and beautiful as they were, and because men in this society that they were in had refused to check the other men in the society on the way they treated these young women, that they were constantly in a situation where they had to navigate being barraged with sexual advances and having ambition and having capability. They were often presented with this scenario where they were supposed to consider using sexual activity to acquire what they needed. Now, I'm the kind of person that where I come from, we believe in the Second Amendment. And I come from a family of law enforcement, people that were in the military. I come from a family that was very well skilled in computer software development, including software development programs that had to deal with security and had to deal with transport and had to deal with weapons manufacture, production, and distribution. And there are standards associated with that, including what you do in your private life and how you engage with women, whether you're married to them or not. See, if you beat your wife, then the environment you're in is supposed to let you know that is unacceptable. It is unacceptable for you to raise a hand against your wife. It is unacceptable for somebody to try to get your daughter or entice your daughter into doing drugs or engaging in acts of prostitution. But if you're in a different kind of social setting, and the social setting, for whatever reason, has tried to make some justification for trying to declare that such practices are legitimate commerce, and then they want to work with your family and your background, it becomes very important to set standards accordingly. In this context, I believe that what was needed was to learn a very basic form of self defense and make sure these girls had it as well. That these girls and these young women needed to know how to defend themselves physically. Because if somebody comes up and tries to touch them and stroke them as a way of saying, hey, you know you want to give it to me, she should be able to punch him in the throat and tell him to get away because he physically accosted her and threatened her. This is a logical thing. I just have had a time, myself trying to acclimate to a society where in the last 10 to 20 years of gaslighting, of massive fraud, of complete misrepresentation of what kind of assets were actually available and whose they actually belong to, that somebody seemed to forget that if some guy comes up and tries to grab your genitals, you have a right to punch him in the throat. It's a physical assault. You are defending yourself. And then policy should be made accordingly. Now, if on the other hand, you're trying to slip her a Mickey and get her in the mood and then hustle a quick sex act with her and then slip some weapons or some specs on some weapons or some pirated software on her bag and then tell her to go to the hotel in another city and meet with a guy that's going to do the same thing and then make sure she deliver that package, we're not talking about punches in the throat anymore. It's also very important to understand you don't broker weapons on teenage girls. You don't broker weapons on women that say no. If you're not going to show the woman how to use the weapon and make sure that she's in a position where she can learn to use it safely, and she's in a society of people that have done every single thing possible to make sure she never has to use it. Because no man would dare to think of her that way. No man would dare to treat her that way. You don't deserve to have anything close to those weapons. It's a very, very basic standard. It's pretty simple. It doesn't really matter how much they cost or how much they could get you on the black market. They're not supposed to be on the black market. If they are, you are the problem. You should have said no. That's the standard. You don't beat a woman into agreeing to smuggle weapons for you.